Hello, everyone. There's a new article out in the Daily Mail today where Chris Watts indicates, quote, "If I hadn't met Nikki, I would never have killed my family," end quote. I think that might be one of the most truthful things that has ever come out of Chris Watts' mouth. The article continues by saying Watts still loves Nikki and wanted to be with her so much he slaughtered his entire family. But he realizes he would not be in prison if it was not for her. The author of the book, Letters from Christopher, Miss Sherilyn Cadle, stated, quote, "He was mesmerized by her. She showed him respect that he didn't feel like he'd ever been shown before," end quote. Watts also claims to still love Nichol Kessinger, the mistress he met at work. Watts was so enamored with Nichol that he even tried to cause Shanann, his wife, to miscarry their son, Nico, by giving her the painkiller oxycodone. After Nichol had told him she wanted to give him his first son. Watts told Cadle that he loved Nikki like he has never loved anyone else before. At the same time, he says he loved Shanann, but that he knew that she was not his soulmate and not the person that he was supposed to be with. Chris often wonders where Nichol is. He has indicated that he receives letters and postcards with names signed by different women, and he often wonders if they might be from Nichol, the person that he does call his soulmate. After the murders, Watts told Cadle, quote, "All I could feel was now I was free to be with Nikki. Feelings of my love for her was overwhelming me. I felt no remorse," end quote. He continues, quote, "The darkness inside of me had won. It was still in me, though. I thought maybe permanently. I felt evil, swallowed up by this thing inside of me. I felt like I could kill anything and be justified for doing it," end quote. Cadle indicates after Watts killed his family and drove away, Nikki texted him to look up the song by Metallica called Battery. She then challenges you to look up the full lyrics to the song, and she finds it interesting that we should believe it's only a coincidence, which I tend to agree with her. I don't think that's a coincidence. As part of her research, Cadle spent 15 hours meeting face-to-face with Watts in prison, had phone calls 3 times a week, and exchanged dozens of letters. As part of their agreement for the book, Watts indicated he would take no money for himself or his family. Cadle's first letter didn't reach Watts, but after she wrote twice more, he replied. Watts then requested his mother, Cindy Watts, call Miss Cadle and let her know that he was indeed interested in doing the book and would like to talk to her further. Cadle says that Watts revealed secrets to her that he had withheld from the FBI when they came to visit him in February. He did not know that they were arriving, and he felt surprised and disgruntled over their visit. Cadle says, quote, "His story that he gave them at the time is true for the most part. There were just more specifics of how the murders took place and some of the things that he did," end quote. Cadle states that her first visit to the prison was intimidating, and their first face-to-face meeting was conducted via a video screen because Watts was still in solitary confinement at the time. Other prisoners were yelling and mad because they had to be on lockdown in their cells while the guards brought Chris through the hallways. He was handcuffed to the table and his feet were shackled. However, the next 2 visits she had with him took place in the general visiting hall, alongside other families. The room is lined with vending machines, and Cadle had brought in $20 worth of quarters, the maximum allowed. She bought him a cheeseburger, a bag of potato chips, and 2 Mountain Dews and a candy bar. "It's a taste of outside of the prison food," she says. Watts' shackles were removed in the main visitor hall, and Cadle was able to give him a hug when he entered, and then was ordered to stay in his chair, and no other physical contact is allowed. Cadle says when she finally met Watts in person, he seemed more boyish. He had shaved his facial hair. She was also perturbed by the fact that Watts was unable to make eye contact with her as they spoke. She finally asked him, "Why can't you look at me in the eye when you talk to me?" He indicated that he's always been that way, and it wasn't because of her. Isn't that what they say about liars? Liars can't look at you in the eye. Chris is a liar, isn't he? Then they went on to talk about what life was like in prison for him in the high security. He was in solitary at the time, locked up 23 hours a day. It was a small, un-air-conditioned cell. Since that time, he's gained some more privileges. He is able to go to the day room for a few hours, maybe watch TV. He's picked up playing chess. He also feels if he's ever moved to general population, he will have a very difficult time. While in Colorado, he was in fear for his life. He never saw another inmate, but they would scream at him all the time and tell him different ways how he could kill himself. He was also on suicide watch. He also spent time in the hole. It's darker than the other parts of the prison, and there's no human connection. A guard would stand on the other side of the door, and he might have some conversation, depending on who it was. He told me that one guard prayed with him one night. Watts felt he was treated very badly during his time in Colorado. Watts felt very much like it was a very difficult stay in Colorado. In Wisconsin, life is more agreeable for Watts. His parents have bought him a small prison regulation TV, and a friend has sent a radio. He doesn't have very many television stations, but he gets a religious station that he said he likes to listen to a lot. He reads a lot, mainly Christian books and the Bible. Cadle says that he is unusually calm. Of course, he would rather not be in prison, but he is content. She said that he talks about the amount of news stories that are written about him and finds it bizarre that the minute details of his life are being discussed. He was particularly surprised when a man named Trent Boult came forward claiming to have had an affair with him. He was also blindsided by the Amanda McMahon lady who claimed to have met him on Tinder and had sexual relations with him. He denied both. He said he absolutely did not know them and had no dealings with them whatsoever. He stated that he had never cheated on Shanann until Nikki. Cadle did not speak with either Trent Boult or Amanda McMahon for this book, and she was unable to reach Kessinger. I do tend to believe Chris at this point in time that he didn't have anything to do with Trent or Amanda McMahon. I know at one time I thought there was a possibility that Trent could be connected somehow with Nikki, but I do not believe that any longer. I know people's views change with time, and at this time I do not believe there's any involvement with Trent. Cadle asked Watts if he had kept anything from the police about Kessinger's involvement. Although she doesn't give a direct answer from Chris on that question, maybe that's going to be in the book, but what she does say in this article is that she, quote, "I do not believe in my heart that Nikki knew he was going to murder his family. I think the only part that she played is that she wanted him to leave Shanann and the girls, and she wanted it yesterday." End quote. That was my feelings too when in my video Investigation Ongoing, I thought that Nikki was probably pressuring Chris really bad to, hurry up, get this over with, end this and get with me now. I think she was really pressuring him to hurry up and be with her. Cadle indicates that during their conversations that she has observed a level of detachment over what he has done. She said he doesn't talk a lot about the girls. He talks more about Shanann, and sometimes he talks about them in the present tense. We noticed that when the FBI and the guys went up there to talk to him in February. He also used the present tense. And he tells Cadle that he loves them all very much. Not "I loved them," but he refers to it as "I loved them." Cadle asked him to write her a letter and to tell her a little bit about their life together because he didn't do that much in person. In one of the letters, Chris wrote to Shanann and his daughters directly. Cadle recalled that she had to point out to him that he never once apologized for taking their lives. She said the letter was more about what it was doing to him and how it made him feel that they were gone. It was almost like they had died in an accident instead of the fact that he had murdered them. She asked him why he didn't say he was sorry, and Chris's response was, "Oh, I didn't say I was sorry. She said to him, You've never said you're sorry in any of these letters. I think the public is going to notice that. And I asked him, Are you sorry that you killed them? He said, Well, I'm sorry. I can put that in a letter, and you can insert it into the other letters. He didn't even realize. And at this point, while reading this article, I thought, why hasn't he written a letter apologizing to the Ruseks and how he's made them feel and how he's affected their lives? There's something wrong with him. She says that Watts also revealed that the murders were not committed in an outburst of rage, and I've said that before too, and that he had been plotting them for weeks. Cato says she believes that Chris has told her the truth, and that she believes it will help put pieces of the puzzle together. She thinks it will give closure to his family if they really read and absorb what he's trying to say in his letters. She indicated that the Watts family helped her in the beginning by sharing stories and photos, but she began to question their motives. It turned into more of a Shanann bashing, because Cindy does not believe that Christopher killed his daughters, Cato said. She believes that Cece and Bella were killed by Shanann. Their entire motive has been to clear their son's name. I understand it would be very hard to admit that your son could do anything so awful. She says, in the beginning, I felt it was out of their pain, but it didn't take long to see that they were trying to push the narrative of the book. And she says when she wouldn't write what they wanted her to write, that Cindy Watts became very angry with her. Cato says the more she learned about Chris's upbringing, the more unsettled she became. She doesn't go on to elaborate in the article, so maybe we'll find out more about that in the book. She states that Cindy also felt like Chris loved Ronnie, his father, more than he loved her, and it really bothered her. Cato also reached out to Shanann's family, the Ruseks, but they declined to participate in the book. And she worries about the effect that the book will have on them. She says that her intentions are good, and she stated that included in the book is a letter that Chris wrote to the Ruseks asking for their forgiveness. She says she doesn't want the book to be misconstrued as support for Watts. She says she absolutely hates what he did, and she doesn't condone it in any way. She feels that it was easier for Chris to write it, what he did, in a letter form, because the letters coming out of the prison are not opened. She says that Chris would write and then seal the envelope, and they would be stamped over the top of the seal, and that's how he could say whatever he needed to say, rather than doing it on the telephone or in person. And I know a lot of people are like that. It's easier for them to write their feelings rather than tell you in person or over the telephone. Some prisons may have different rules, but I know that a lot of prisons, they will open the incoming mail, but they do not open the outgoing mail. So that's possibly how he's able to feel comfortable with writing her. She says that Watts has not read an advanced copy of the book, but she does intend to send him one once it's published. She says that Chris is still very much in support of the book, and when she just spoke to him a few days ago, he was very much in support of it. She said he was watching football at the time. They talked a little bit about sports. He asked her about the book and what stage it was at. He had been told the release date by his family. He knows that there's some things in the book that he's not going to agree with, and he has told his family that he wishes that they would back out of the criticism and social media hate that has gone on and realize that he is very much for the book. And she says, I believe a part of that is because he wants his family to understand. I think he's tired of pretending. He just wants the story out for everyone to know, and maybe it will calm down. So that's it with this new article that came out today. The things that get me is how he indicates that if he hadn't met Nikki, that he would have never killed his family, how he was mesmerized by her. and how she's his soulmate. He just seems so out of touch with reality. So while looking at this article, it already has 1,500 comments, if you can believe that. It's generating a lot of hate, that's for sure. It's only been out a few hours, and there's already over 1,500 comments. Most of them are very bad. Can't even read most of these. Most of them are like, he's a monster. No pity for this monster. He's pure evil. He deserves nothing but suffering. Then we have this one. It says, as a former inmate counselor, many inmates I have met with got a sick satisfaction retelling details of their crimes. He is clearly getting kicks out of sharing these horrific details. I don't believe everything he's saying either. Any money made off of his letters should be donated to charity. I know that the author has said that I think there's 3 different charities that some of the money is going to, but not all of it. So that was a halfway decent comment. There's also quite a few comments about narcissism, and here's one. Typical narcissist. It's never their fault. There's a rationalization for every wrong decision in their life, and someone to blame because they're perfect. And there's quite a few of, he's an evil, vile monster. Then we have this comment that says, he won't take responsibility. Nikki was involved, and he is admitting it when he says he's in love with her. He's protecting her. She probably helped him, and that's why her phone pinged nearby. She knew what he knew, and that itself is a crime. She is a master manipulator. She was jealous of the wife and the family. A woman that agrees to see a man that is still married is desperate, period. Wait for him to be divorced. So some of my thoughts are based on some of the statements he made about him not showing any type of empathy or remorse. You know what? I'm not surprised, because he shows all of the makings of someone that is a psychopath. Psychopath doesn't have the ability to show any empathy or remorse. Therefore, I'm not surprised at his reactions and his just utter lack of his surroundings. He's just completely oblivious to the fact that he should apologize for some things that he's done. He's only worried about himself. Me, 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 me. That's all he thinks about is me, me, me. What's happening to me? Period. And it seems, it really speaks volumes that every time he's questioned about if Nikki had anything to do with it, did Nikki know anything, he always seems to change the subject. So I'm waiting to see what's in the book. If she can pinpoint him down to anything other than him changing the subject about Nikki. Maybe he's still protecting her. I think he probably is. And I mean, she may not have been there, but he could be protecting her in other ways. He's still obviously in love with his soulmate that mesmerized him. It's funny, mesmerized is something like hypnotized, spellbound by her. He's still spellbound, hypnotized, and mesmerized by his soulmate, Nikki. Wonder if she's still in love with him. I wonder why these other people like her are not coming out and saying, and speaking up, and defending themselves. Wonder if they will. Wonder if she'll write a book. Only time will tell. The thing is, if Chris was truly remorseful, regretful, and had true repentance in his heart, he would be screaming from the rooftops, trying to clear the people and clear up some of these misconceptions and theories that have been put out. He would feel bad about that, but he doesn't. He would, because we all know that he has been made aware of all these things that are going on, all these theories that have been put out, the people that have been thrown under the bus, the things that have been said about Shanann, about having Munchausen and medically abusive to the children. He would be saying, discrediting that information. He would be defending her. He would be defending his co-workers that have been accused of ghastly things, horrific things. He'd be wanting to, make that first and foremost to clear those people's names. Even his own family members have been accused of things, all sorts of things, but he doesn't even have the sense of mind to make a simple apology. But we all know that. He shows the clear signs of a psychopath. He doesn't even know what it feels like to feel like, what does it feel like when someone says they love you? He doesn't have any true feelings inside of him. So he can't truly feel love, therefore he cannot truly feel remorse or regret. We all know that he has been told about these things that have been said. And he has made no effort whatsoever to try to discredit these ridiculous things that have been put out there. Especially about the love of his life. The girl that mesmerized him, his soulmate. More things have been said about her being involved than anyone else. I don't see him out there defending her honor. Now, is he? No, not yet. We'll see what the book brings in the coming days, but that's my thoughts on this for now. Thanks for listening. Bye.